for you, if you can. This is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Book of Going Forth by Day. This is the Raymond Faulkner translation of Papyrus of Ani. Carol Andrews put it all together, and it has complete color vignettes with text. It's really a sumptuous, gorgeous text. But what I've done is, back in the back, this is the essay by Ogden. Let me see if I can get his... He introduces the Egyptian Book of the Dead and all that jazz. This is a commentary on the corpus of literature and tradition which constitutes the Book of Going Forth by Day. And this is by Dr. Ogden Golet Jr. He's the Department of Near Eastern Studies in New York University. He's giving this commentary on the Book of the Dead. And this incidentally was published just a few years back. It's the newest, best translation, really is. Faulkner is a lot better than Budge. If you can get Faulkner, you're doing yourself a favor. This first edition is 1994. So see, 1994, we're already talking 14 years ago. It's hard to believe how fast time is going. Okay, for instance, on page 157, he's just describing the various meanings of the Book of the Dead. And he says, although one might expect that some of the opening of the mass ceremony would appear in the text below, it does not. Instead, a series of allusions to the ritual's desired effects appear at the end of chapter 1. And other papyri contain several chapters specifically connected with the ritual, but Annie's contains only chapter 22. The ritual objects were of great importance to the restoration of the dead, and so they play a constant recurring role in the Book of the Dead. The text of chapter 1 introduces us to one of the central problems of interpreting Egyptian religious material, the often puzzling relationship between text and illustration. The entire scene is an abridged representation of Annie's funeral, leading us to believe that the text would describe his burial ritual. That makes sense, right? However, the accompanying text alludes to the mythical events surrounding the death, the dismemberment, and burial of Osiris, followed by the eventual vindication, chiefly through the aid of Horus and Thoth, who had a major role in the Book of the Dead as the defenders of Osiris. The relationship between myth, symbol, and ritual in Egyptian religion is problematic. They're still working on it. This is as of 1994. The rubric to this chapter, he's going on to another plate 5 rubric to chapter 1, further down on page 157, column B, the second column. The rubric to this chapter, however, shows that the Egyptians felt that certain chapters had a thematic consistency and should be grouped together. The rubric is more than the title to chapter 1. It served as the heading for the entire Book of the Dead. Now that's kind of interesting. Then later on down in column A, the first column on page 158, although the vignettes for plates 5 and 6 shows only the burial ceremony, and as is standard is accompanied by chapter 1, he says, 3 other texts appear here as well. Chapter 22, followed by chapter 21, and the rubric normally connected with chapter 72. So you can see the kind of conglomeration and mixed. And then he talks about the next world in both words and pictures. He says the connection between the vignette and the illustration and the text between them was occasionally tenuous. The Senate playing scene is immediately followed by a depiction of both Tutu and Ani as bawbirds with candles before them. This event, too, is mentioned briefly in the rubric to the chapter and is otherwise not really mentioned in the text. I've got this copy. Throughout his essay, he's trying to describe the various chapters of the Book of the Dead and the illustrations with them, and not all of them match. But I noticed it's not only 1 or 2 odd chapters that don't match. There are several instances where the vignette does not match the text itself. Now, if this is possible in Egyptian materials, the reason this is important to understand, according to the LDS scholarship, is because they say, well, the Joseph Smith Papyri is about a funerary text, but the picture should accompany that text. And it's not a sacrificial scene, it's a mummifying scene. It's about a funeral. But if facsimile number 1 doesn't go along with the text, then it may not be a funerary scene. That's the point. That's how the LDS scholars deal with that. But actually, we've got the Egyptologists saying the same thing in essence. There are numerous different chapters in the Book of the Dead that do not accompany the proper text. And I think that's kind of interesting. So not only John Gee shows that for facsimile number 3 in the Book of Abraham, Hugh Nibley showed it for facsimile number 1 and 2, well, and 3. Gee was better at it with chapter 3. But now Ogden Golet in this book, with the Raymond Faulkner translation of the Book of Ani, he also indicates that same state of affairs. So I just thought I'd share that with you and let you see that the Egyptologists are saying exactly what the LDS scholars are saying they're saying. Woohoo! I hope that helps you, Wayman. Thanks, man.